The broken window hypothesis is a criminological theory that looks at how the conditions of the physical surroundings in an area correlate to the crime and behavior in that area. We began our process wanting to address violence in St. Louis by applying this theory and expected to see a link between more violent areas and high urban decay. Despite the correlation we found between these two factors, we have discovered that it is far more complex than that. The correlation is far too limited to accurately prove any type of causation and ignores many systemic issues that actually have a greater influence on violence than built environment does.
We tend to think in really linear ways sometimes. There's this cause and there's this effect, right? But I don't think the built environment is really, in a linear way, deterministic, right? It's part of the mix, right? What I think the built environment can do is it can either open up or close off choices that people can make. Real simple, and we'll talk about that on the architectural scale for a second. Real simple. If you put a front porch on a house, people can use the front porch, right, to socialize. That doesn't mean they're going to, right? But if you don't put it on, they're not going to. They won't have that choice. So what you can do with the design of the built environment is open up or limit choices. And then it's really up to people. So maybe again you get this, maybe you get this idea that the built environment says if you are going to commit crimes, maybe this is where you might want to do them. I don't know, right? It doesn't create crime, but it best kind of locates it.
Although we did find a correlation between high concentrations of crime and urban decay, there are more systemic issues that affect violence beyond the built environment. To fully understand violence, we must first understand these broader issues that create and perpetuate the presence of violence in St. Louis.
Again, I think this has to do with this whole nexus of issues, which is lack of education, which is lack of jobs, poverty. In some ways, I think the built environment is, again, the least of it. But bottom line, it began with race. That's where the restrictive covenants came from, the predatory lending. All of that is basically about race. And now it's had all these socioeconomic overlays. But the first domino is the race domino. So built environment, it's, again, like I say, it can only do so much. I think it has some power to open up or close off options, but it's only part of a much larger mix. What offends me about this idea that the amount of litter is somehow a determining factor in crime. There's something in that bothers me because it seems to ignore, again, the things that I think are really at the root of crime, which are the kind of things you can't blame on the people that are there, the kind of things that we're responsible for. Again, gets back to that great divorce idea, that the crime rates went up in the city when those of us that could get up and leave did get up and leave, and took all of our resources with us, took our eyes with us, our money with us, our role modeling with us. When you look at these neighborhoods that are struggling or crime-ridden or dilapidated, the easiest thing in the world is to blame the people that are there now. The subtler thing to do is to realize that the people that are living out in West County and have been for a couple generations, that they're equally culpable in creating this situation, right? That's not about guilt. That's simply about context. It's about American history, right? But we take it personally sometimes, right? Because we want to believe in personal worth. We want to believe in personal accomplishment, personal responsibility. It's just a culture. You know, if you have a culture of private ownership and privacy and turning your back on your fellow citizens, that's going to be more important than the built environment. It'll be reflected in the built environment, right? And that's where you get to that cycle. You know, your values affect the built environment affects your values, right? Boom, 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 right? But that's not linear. It's cyclic. It's multivariable.